Good afternoon, and thank you all for joining us today. I am NIN Ventures, and I will be your host. Let's start with my background. I started my professional career at Merrill Lynch with their private client group. At Merrill Lynch, we managed portfolios of high net worth individuals. While it was great to trade stocks and bonds, I was always curious about how these companies went public. Thus, after business school, I joined Crest Securities. PCS is a tech-focused investment bank with a global presence focused on software, communications, semiconductors, and internet and digital media. Here are a few transactions I worked on at PCS. In 2005, IPOs were at the peak, and it was amazing to take all these companies public. But that led to another question. How do VCs know what companies to invest in and which ones to take public? Thus, I joined Alpha Capital Partners. Alpha is a generalist fund with about $135 million of assets under management. My most recent transaction at Alpha was Circon, a software as a service provider company. During my time at Alpha, I realized how inefficient the fundraising process was, not necessarily at Alpha, but in general. That's how NIN Ventures came into existence. NIN Ventures is a first of its kind technology venture capital fund to be marketed, raised, managed, and reported online. The general solicitation and general advertising under the Jobs Act and Rule 506(c) of the U.S. Securities Act made it possible for us to raise this fund. This rule came into effect September 23rd, and we were the first ones to go live with a website and videos about our fund. NIN Ventures also became the first venture fund to be seen on a billboard, which was followed by in-taxi ads and other social media facilitated marketing. So what will NIN Ventures Technology Fund invest in? The fund will invest in Series A and B rounds and write a check anywhere from $1 to $5 million based on the industry, sector, and stage. Our focus is primarily on financial services technology, education software, internet and digital media, mobile communications, cloud computing, 3D printing, and other path-breaking sectors within the United States. Let's start with a basic question. Why venture capital? Historically, if you look at U.S. Venture Capital Index and S&P 500, you'll notice U.S. Venture Capital Index tends to outperform S&P 500. And not only that, they have an inverse relationship. So what does that mean? For example, your traditional portfolio consists of 70% stocks, 20% bonds, 10% money market investment. With addition of venture capital, your portfolio can now be 60% stocks, 20% bonds, 10% money market, and 10% venture capital investment. The addition of venture capital will not only help you diversify your investment, it will help you mitigate the risk given the inverse correlation between S&P 500 and U.S. Venture Capital Index. So why venture capital, and what is our strategy? Our strategy is to invest in early to growth stage path-breaking technology-focused companies. From 2002 to 2012, technology investments have dominated the venture capital industry. And the highest amount of venture capital funding occurred in early to expansion stage companies. If you notice, from 2002 to 2011, sector-focused funds have outperformed generalist funds. And technology sector has outperformed the rest of the U.S. Venture Capital Index, with early and expansion stage companies yielding the highest returns. Thus, NIN Ventures will invest in path-breaking early to growth stage technology companies We will not only provide adequate financing, but will lend our domain expertise and network of partners to help companies with recruitment, PR and marketing, and also a viable exit strategy. The strength of our team, the value of our network, and our funding model that's designed to reduce management costs creates this unique investment offering. So who can invest in the fund? One must be an accredited investor and verify themselves as an accredited investor before they can invest with us. An accredited investor is an individual with an income of more than $200,000 per year or a joint income of $300,000 in each of the last 2 years, or has a net worth exceeding $1 million either individually or jointly with his or her spouse, excluding the primary residence. For an entity, any trust with total assets in excess of $5 million. There are multiple ways to verify if you are an accredited investor. For example, for an individual, income, asset, and third-party verification. For entity, it's asset and third-party verification. Credentials is our most preferred third-party verification method with a simple and confidential process at a click of the button. We also let investors invest in our fund using their retirement plans, for example, self-directed IRA. Self-directed is a descriptive term that is used to describe how IRA providers administer their assets. With self-directed IRA, the client controls what the IRA invests in. Self-directed IRA allows investors to hold alternative assets within their tax-deferred retirement plan, such as private placement in venture capital. I will now pass on the presenter role to Patrick Hagan from the interest group, who will talk about this in detail, including he'll probably explain about what interest group does in general and our association with them. Off to you, Patrick.
Thank you, NIN. Yes, we are a self-directed IRA provider, and what that means in simple terms is we hold investments that are approved by the IRS, allowed by the IRS, but that generally you cannot do through a standard bank or brokerage firm. Most companies that work in the retirement planning space are holding publicly traded securities, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, those types of assets. With a self-directed retirement plan, you can invest in alternative assets, which includes private placements, venture capital, and other things like real estate and private notes. So what we've done for over 30 years is hold these types of assets for people with retirement plan funds. We facilitate the transaction and then hold that asset for them as the administration company on behalf of their self-directed retirement plan. As I mentioned, we've been doing it for a long time. We do high volume, anywhere from 12 to 16,000 transactions a month. We currently have about $3 billion in investor assets, which for an industry that makes up about $50 billion total, obviously $3 billion is a pretty good chunk of that total industry. My office is in St. Louis, Missouri. We do have several regional offices throughout the country, and then our corporate base is out in Oakland, California. But all we do all day is self-directed retirement plans, focusing specifically on holding alternative investments like private stock for IRA and 401k account holders. NIN, could you please move to the next slide?
Sure.
She mentioned what a self-directed IRA is. The key thing here is that an IRA is an IRA, whether it's considered self-directed or not. The essence of the IRA is the same. The difference is the way that the IRA provider is structured. Some IRA providers will choose investments for you, take on a fiduciary role, and thereby inadvertently limit your options to only the products that they want you to buy. With a truly self-directed IRA, you pick the investment, and that opens the door to anything that the IRS allows, which includes and always has included private stock and other private placement investments. Go ahead, next slide, please. I should mention also that the tax benefits of a retirement plan are going to be the same with a private placement investment as they would investing in publicly traded stock. The benefit there being with a traditional IRA, which is your standard IRA, that's pre-tax growth. So you're not paying taxes or gain on anything that transpires within that account. It's deferred. With a Roth IRA, the Roth IRA came out in 1998, that's actually a tax-free vehicle. So you can make investments and have the growth deferred, but then when you take the money out at some later point, as long as you're over the age of 59 and a half, you can do that with no taxes whatsoever. We also hold accounts for people that are self-employed and have small businesses. That could be a SEP account or a simple account. And then for people that are self-employed, we have what's called an individual 401k plan. Most of our clients are setting up either a traditional or a Roth. In today's world, we see a lot of people doing Roth IRAs because now anybody can get into a Roth regardless of their income. And so we see a lot of people that would prefer to have tax-free growth rather than tax-deferred growth that you would have with a traditional IRA. Next slide, please. It's a very simple process if this is something you want to do. Obviously, you need to establish an account with somebody that does self-directed retirement plans like the Entrust Group. You can contact my office. We can get an account established very quickly. Second step is to move over some of your existing retirement plan funds to that account. That's typically a transfer if it's IRA to IRA or a rollover if it's coming out of a qualified plan. That is the step in the process. It takes a little bit of time. Typically, you're looking at about 5 to 7 business days. But then once those funds come over, you as the self-directed account holder will direct what is going to take place within that account. So in this particular case, if you wanted to invest with NIN Ventures, you would make that investment through the retirement plan directed by you, and we would facilitate that transaction as the IRA provider. So the stuff that we control, setting up the account, making the investment, happens very quickly. Getting the money in place is the part that takes a little bit of time. So plan accordingly if you decide this is something you want to do. But the 3 steps are very simple. You set up an account, shift over money, direct the investment. To that point, we generally tell our folks to move over the amount of money to us that they're going to invest. And what I mean by that is if you have $250,000 in a retirement plan and only want to invest $50 into a private placement, just move the $50. You can leave the rest where it is. There's no sense in moving everything. We're very much of a niche business. We really only focus on the alternative assets and hold things like private placements. Go ahead, Nin, if you could please to the next slide. I think that's it for my portion. The last thing I'll leave with is that if you have questions, obviously this is a relatively unknown section of the industry. A lot of folks are not familiar with the idea of investing in non-publicly traded stock through a retirement plan. Feel free to contact my office. I do take phone calls day in and day out. I'm happy to walk through the process with you and explain how it works and answer any questions that you have.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Patrick. To invest in NIN Ventures using your self-directed IRA, like Patrick mentioned, once again, let me just go through this process here step by step. You must first sign up on our website. So you have to, signing up is really simple. All you need to provide is your first name, last name, an email, and acknowledge you are an accredited investor. Once you sign up, you get access to our marketing materials, which is our PPM, investor presentation, and also other suggested readings. You get invited to calls, attend our events. You can also schedule a one-on-one meeting with us at our office or online via Skype. Once you decide to make an investment, accept the risk and disclosure statement that will explain what venture capital investing is. The next step is verifying accreditation. Once you verify accreditation, Patrick will get in touch with you to help establish a separate IRA account and how to direct Entrust to process the information into NIN.VC. Once all that is in order, it's only a matter of filling out subscription documents as guided by Patrick and a W-9 form on NIN.VC. The last step is payment and is as simple as providing checking and routing number that Entrust provided you and the amount you wish to invest. Please note that venture capital is a high-risk, high-reward investment vehicle, and we strongly recommend reviewing the other suggested readings on our website before making any investment decisions. On that note, we're open to questions. Please type your questions in the chat box and we'll make sure we answer them all. So the first question I'm seeing is, who will do the reporting? As long as NIN Ventures is concerned, we will be providing quarterly reports on the performance of the fund and every investment that has been made using the fund. Patrick, do you have anything else to add to that?
No, what we will do from a reporting standpoint is the same thing that any IRA provider would do. We will hold the asset, report if there's any change in value. So obviously we make the investment, we hold it at cost. If it goes up or down in value based on the reports that we get back from NIN Ventures, then we'll report that on the statement. At the end of the year, every IRA provider sends out what's called a 5498. Just as any company would, we would send that out. It basically gives a snapshot value of what the retirement plan is worth. And we include any updates in value on that 5498 that goes out at the end of the year. But like I kind of mentioned before, an IRA is an IRA. So essentially we're doing the same thing that any IRA provider would do. The difference being in this case we're holding alternative assets instead of just publicly traded stocks, bonds, and mutual funds.
Got it. Next question. How long will it take to open an account with interest and then invest in NIN.VC? Like Patrick mentioned, it will take a day to establish an account and then probably 5 to 7 business days. Am I correct, Patrick?
That's exactly right. Yeah, we can open an account very quickly. It's getting the money in place, and depending on where it's coming from, the sending provider is going to determine how long that takes. It could happen as quickly as one day. My experience has been about 5 to 7 business days if you're moving money from a fairly large brokerage firm, and then once we have the funds and the direction order from the client, that shouldn't take more than a day or so for us to get the investment processed.
Perfect. Can you please type your contact info again, Patrick? Patrick, can you please provide your phone number and email address to Mark?
I will, yes. I don't know that I have the ability to type it, but I'll just give it to you verbally. My phone number to my office is a direct line. It's area code 636 681 1312 636-681-1312. My email is first initial last name P Hagen, which is spelled PHAGEN at thentrustgroup.com. So that is P Hagen at THENTRUSTGROUP.com. P Hagen at thentrustgroup.com.
Perfect. Any other questions? Thank you again for being on the call. Sign up on NIN.VC to begin your investment process, and feel free to reach us at contact@nin.vc or 312-953-0930 to schedule one-on-one meetings. If you have any other questions or material requests, have a wonderful day and happy investing.